what's going on, sports cards fans? Ray from Philly here on this Tuesday, January 14th. And I'm doing a special collab video tonight. If you're not sure or haven't heard yet, the 2025 BBWAA, that's the Baseball Writers Association of America, is coming out with their Hall of Fame announcement next Tuesday. That's 1 week from today. So last month, I did a collab video with these same three gentlemen that I'm going to bring on in a second, that we did on the Veterans Committee. And that was a lot of fun. I mean, we went on and on for over an hour. We're going to keep it shorter tonight, but we're going to do the same thing, but this time on the BBWAA ballot. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the same guys, Greg from Midlife Sports Cards.
How's it going? Thanks for
Dan,
having me.
yeah, Dan, Vintage Baseball, PC.
Hey, guys.
And Chris from Missouri. Hey, guys, how you doing tonight?
Doing great. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Yeah, last month we had a blast doing the Veterans Committee, and we got the two guys right, Dave Parker and Dick Allen, so I was thrilled about that. But now this is the voters, the writers' ballot, the 2025 BBWAA voters' ballot. There's like 30 some guys, 30 some players on here. We're going to go through not all of the players. We're going to go through the guys right now that are above 5%. And there's a great tracker out there. As a matter of fact, let's bring it on right now. Here's the introduction, but it's by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Thibault or Thibault.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I can share the link with you, everyone down below. When you are done watching this video, you can click on the link and monitor this. It is a great, great monitor. It's just spreadsheet. It shows all of the players, what year they're in right now, how many they got the previous years. It's just a great tool, and they update it every day. So as you can see right now, the latest update shows you right now who are the players that are above the 75% threshold. And that's Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, Wagner, and Beltran. And the other guys from Andrew Jones down to Francisco Rodriguez are above the 5%. You have to stay at above 5% to remain on the ballot for the next year. So we're going to start, with Francisco Rodriguez. We're going to leave off the guys down below that are below the 5%, even though I really think Torrey Hunter should get a vote. He was a great player, but that's another story. So let's go without further ado. We're going to bring in the first player right now, this is his rookie card, 2000 Topps Chrome. Traded Francisco Rodriguez. He is a 6-time All-Star, 2 times Rollins relief winner, and he has 436 saves, which places him 6th all-time. So we'll go with Greg. Greg, you'll be first. What are your thoughts on Francisco Rodriguez? And by the way, this is Frankie's. It's his 3rd year on the ballot. So last year he had 7.8%. As of right now, he is at 8.6. So he's not doing that much better. But what are your thoughts on Frankie Rodriguez?
Well, he's one of these guys that when he first hit the majors was like kind of a phenom. He was like this guy. He was a starter. I think he was a starter when he came in, and he was like kind of amazing and caught everyone by storm. He was kind of like a card chase guy, and then it didn't really work. And then they stuck him in the bullpen, and he was a really good closer. Mm-hmm. I think he was very good. He's not near the Hall of Fame area. And just as a prelude to where I'm going to go, my main thoughts is if you're going to be a closer or a DH and you're going to make the Hall of Fame, you've got to be absolutely dominant for a long time. And he was very good, but he wasn't absolutely dominant for a very long time. So for me, he's a no.
Okay. Chris from Missouri.
Yes. Well, this is kind of an interesting one. To me, the closer position, the relief position, has changed the quickest in baseball. I mean, it's taken a while for it to evolve, but there's a big difference between somebody like Raleigh Fingers, who at one time was probably considered the greatest closer of all time, and Francisco Rodriguez. it's just different. It's one inning here and that's it.
Right.
Not 3 innings there. So there's going to be some arguments about, boy, he's a lot better than so and so that made it in the Hall of Fame already because he has 150 more saves or 300 more saves.
Right.
But so to me, closers come down to the eye test kind of stuff, and I agree. Man, I would have loved to have him on my team for the short span of time. But to me, he's short. Like you're going to have to stand out completely, and let's face it, he's not. He's great. He's great, but not Hall of Fame worthy.
He'll probably stick around. He'll probably stick around above the 5% threshold, and who knows? Maybe he'll stay on all 10 years and get moved to the Veterans Committee. Dan, what are your thoughts on Francisco Rodriguez?
So Francisco Rodriguez, my first memory of him is he was coming in the playoffs for the Angels as a setup guy. And he had this combination of like a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and a ridiculous changeup, and he was unhittable. And then I think the following year they moved him into the bullpen, or they moved him into the closer spot. And if you look at his numbers for like 6 seasons, he is, like top level closer of all time kind of guy for 6 seasons. And then he has a season where he gets 62 saves. I'm not sure if that's still the Major League Baseball record for saves in a season, but
Not sure.
he then parlays that into a ridiculous contract with the New York Mets, and then completely crashes. So I mean, I guess 6 seasons of like pure Hall of Fame numbers for a closer is not good enough. As Greg was saying, got to be like, the premier guy for a really, really long time because you're a specialty kind of guy.
Right.
And then he floats around for a while, and then he has a couple of really good seasons later on in his career. But I mean, the 437 saves are, that's window dressing, honestly. He's not a Hall of Famer. And as far as I'm concerned, the Mets are the reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah. He gave all this money and they took the park, and suddenly he just crashed. So, oh well.
Well, my thoughts are the same. I agree with Chris when he was saying that number is today. It's like the reverse with starting pitchers. The wins are down for starting pitchers. The saves are up. The relief pitchers back in the day pitched 2, sometimes 3 innings. These guys come in 9th inning, easy peasy, done. These numbers are really inflated. So, yeah, he's a no for me. So next up, this is a guy that this is his. I think this is his first year on the ballot. No, second year. David Wright. Speaking of the New York Mets, 7-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove Award winner, 1,777 hits, 242 homers, 49.2 career WAR. I'll lead off this one here. I'm going to say, I'm sure Sabermetrics are going to say that he's up there with some of the third basemen. There's been some comparisons with him and Scott Rollins. So maybe down the road, but this year he doesn't have my vote. He was good. Plus he had injuries. If I'm not mistaken, he really had trouble staying healthy towards the end of his career. Good player, not Hall of Fame worthy for me. Greg, you're up.
I mean, he just didn't play long enough. I mean, he was good. He really only played like 8 or 9 seasons. One of my favorite Mets of all time. I really like the guy.
Yeah.
But he just didn't stay healthy. Didn't go long enough. Why, I don't know. But I really like him. But with all due respect, I don't know how he has as high of a percentage as he has right now. I mean, we were just seeing it over 10%. That kind of surprises me. A really good player for a very short period of time.
Yeah. Mr. Missouri.
Well, if Dave Wright's going to get in the Hall of Fame, he's going to have to stand in one of those rope lines that you see at the airport and get behind guys like Darrell Evans and Buddy Bell and a list of them. I really thought David Wright was. I liked him as a player and knew him, and I wish some of my friends from Missouri paid attention to his career earlier before he played in the World Series. What he's known around here is the guy that threw the ball to first base where our first Hosmer scored from third real easy to tie up that ball game. And, and it was because of his weak arm and his it was because of his weak arm at the time, but it was a older Dave Wright. And I thought Dave Wright is a good player. Is not going to get in the Hall of Fame. Not in my lifetime.
Dan,
well,
your thoughts?
I mean, the reason that David Wright was not good in that World Series was because he had been hurt. He'd only played 38 games that season, and he hadn't played a full season in like 3 years. If you wanted the reason that he has that percentage, which is what, like 10 or 11% at this point,
11.2,
yeah, is because his peak is really, really strong. The problem is his peak is only like 6 or 7 seasons, but they're all-star seasons. He is a premier National League third baseman from 2005 to 2012.
12, okay.
Yeah. And then and then he's got a back injury, and it just pretty much finished him. So he's sort of like Mattingly light in that sense. I do not believe that he is a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. He is certainly a New York Mets Hall of Famer.
Good point.
So I'd like to see him stay on the ballot for a little while, but I don't think he's ever going to make it in.
Right. Okay. Well, next up is my first guy that I'm actually voting for one of my 10, and here's his rookie card, 2000 Bowman Chrome, Mark Burley, 5-time All-Star, 214 career wins, 1,870 strikeouts, 4-time Gold Glove, 59.1 WAR. He is the first person that I am voting for. This is his 5th year on the ballot. He's hovering around 12.5% right now. Last year he was at 8.3. I can see this guy staying on the ballot and then after 10 years getting moved to the Veterans Committee, and I can actually see him possibly getting in. But he gets one of my votes for this year. Greg.
That surprises me. He was good. He's sort of the Harold Baines of pitchers. He was like kind of good,
right,
for a long time. He compiled some stuff. He's kind of like Bartolo Colon, who a second ago I was going, what was that guy's name? That pitcher that pitched forever. He reminds me of him. So I went over to Google and I typed in fat pitcher. And the first, literally, I typed in fat pitcher, and the top result was Bartolo Colon.
That's a shame.
True story, but it reminds me kind of like a Bartolo Colon or like a Jamie Moyer. It's like he kind of just kept going. He had 10 losses. I'm looking at it right now. He had 10 losses 10 times. He had 9 losses 2 times, and he had 8 losses 3 times. So 15 times he had 8 or more losses. Like, he was a good pitcher, never had 20 wins, but he's not a Hall of Fame pitcher for me.
Okay. Chris.
He's not a Hall of Fame pitcher for me either. These guys, unless they just do this voodoo metric stuff that they try to convince me that wins don't matter, strikeouts don't matter. He seemed like he was always in the headlines in the offseason for, man, somebody needs to pick up or trade for a left-handed pitcher. Man, he'd be great to have on your roster. And I think he would be. One of these days, people are going to take a strong look at the Hall of Fame and realize that there's not a ton of great left-hand. I mean, that's wrong. But left-handed starting pitcher suffers a little bit and they're going to think, okay, he's going to be in the top 100 or 200 starters, of left-handed pitcher, but they're going to have to do some strong convincing to tell me that he's a Hall of Famer. Now, there was a time when he was a player that I thought he had the stuff to definitely be a Hall of Famer, but nah, He's really good. I'd love to have him on my team, but if you want to waste your vote to have him in the Hall of Fame, we won't make too much fun of you.
I'll give you my reason as to why I'm picking him later on, but Dan, you're up.
I mean, Ray, I think you're really onto something here. And I was actually considering putting him in, and I think his percentage is a little low considering his WAR, his name recognition, the quality number of wins. I mean, the problem for Burley is that his ERA is like 3.5. No, it's like 3.81. That's really high. And he's got 214 wins, but he's also got 160 losses. He was like a second, third starter quality guy for like 10 to 12 seasons. And he's got some seasons in here that are really pretty poor. 2010, I think it is. He's got a 4.28 ERA. 2006, 4.99, and that's with like 30 starts. So, he's got periods of time where he's just not that good. So I think he's a compiler, but his compiling isn't enough to get him into the Hall of Fame. So I'm actually closer than I think the other two guys are, but I'm not going to.
Plus 2 no-hitters. Not that that's huge, but that is
also the greatest play ever by a pitcher, fielding-wise, in baseball history.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
The one where he like picks it up with his leg and flips it backwards and gets the guy out at first. I mean, that's worth some votes, but not enough to get him in.
Okay. Well, next up is a first-year guy. I'm sorry, no, wrong player. This is hopefully I put him on here, but 89 Upper Deck Omar Vizquel, 3-time All-Star, 11-time Gold Glove Award winner. And this next stat's pretty darn impressive. 2,877 career hits, a 45.6 WAR, also 404 career stolen bases. This is his 8th year on the ballot. When he first got on the ballot, I was a strong yes. The hits were really good, way up there, almost 3,000. Great fielder. I had him as a yes, but with the off-field things that have happened to him in the past few years, I'm actually quite surprised he's still even on the ballot, but it's a very controversial situation with Vizquel right now, and he didn't get my vote this year. Greg, you're up.
Well, I must have been living in a cave because I was not familiar with, I see in the news. I did not know about the off the field stuff.
Yeah. That's why when he first started, his first year on the ballot, he did 35%. And in a lot of history has shown that if a first-year player gets 30, 35, they've usually gotten in. Right after that, he had this thing come up, and then he's been plummeting every year.
Well, that might change my vote because I was. I would have to read more about it. I do believe in being a country of you're innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if these are allegations or if. So I can't speak to that. But as a player, I'm really high on defense. And so you're going to hear me say this a couple of times tonight. There are a couple of guys who are absolutely premier defenders and very good and efficient offensively. And for whatever reason, we live in a country that cares about the guy who scores the points, not the guy who plays good defense, who hits the home runs, not the guy who, works his way around the bases and does things on defense. We just don't value it enough. Right. I value it. And Omar Vizquel was like a vacuum for years and years and years. He won 9 straight Gold Gloves. As your thing says, 11 Gold Gloves. And if he had 123 more hits, I don't even think we would be discussing it.
Yeah.
So 123 hits over like a 15-year career, that's not a lot of hits. So to me, again, I'd have to look more into whatever is going on there, but I had him as a yes.
Okay. Chris.
So he's kind of a weird one for me throughout the years because when he first got on the ballot, he had so much momentum, just like he said, that 35% or whatever. And I was looking for excuses to put him on because I always thought him to be Ozzie Smith's equal. He was the American League version of Ozzie Smith to me, and you know, with all those hits and all that. And I was looking for reasons to to try to even put him over the top in other people's eyes when I argued. But then when, you know, here lately, you know, I find myself trying to come up with reasons why he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. But one of the, you know, I I I do try to guard the Hall of Fame in my viewing to, you know, a little bit with cheaters and different things like that. I I don't want to be the moral caretaker of the Hall of Fame, um, and anyway, I I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not I'm not so big. The Golden Gloves matters none to me because there's so many guys that get Golden Gloves that don't deserve Golden Gloves. But
Mhm.
he's one that you watch and say, "Ooh, that guy is really really good. That guy might be the best defensive shortstop I've ever seen." And so that being said, and I hate to agree with Greg more than once or twice tonight, but right
I
now
knew
I'll
you'd
have.
come around, Chris. I knew you would come around.
Well, it's been a couple of years since I've witnessed you saying something this logical, and now it just so to me, one the downfall of him though was there were better shortstops in the American League that people thought of, and so he wasn't, as long as he played in the American League, he wasn't an all star a ton of times, but he also had to put up with Cal Ripken and different players like that. But I'm I'm leaning toward pushing him in. Is how I'm leaning.
Yeah, he was trending the first 3 years. I'm looking 30%, 42%, 52%. First 3 years, he was definitely going. And then
And
the
then
bottom
boom.
has fallen out now. He's been dropping every year. So, Dan.
Yeah, I mean he's down what, like 12%, 14, 12%, something like that.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
way down.
I agree with Chris that Gold Gloves these days don't really mean anything because guys get them voted in on popularity, but the advanced stats do back up that he deserved those Gold Gloves. He had some years when he was in Seattle where his advanced stats fielding wise are off the charts. That being said, 272 batting average, but 336 on base percentage, which is really low. He is a compiler that 2,800 hits is because he played in 24 seasons. He is a 4-decade guy, which is kind of cool. But I don't know. I'm not there. I don't think he's Ozzie Smith's equal. I think Ozzie Smith's, advanced stats are way above what his are. But Ozzie Smith is way above everybody. But that being said, I really don't think he's certainly not gonna get in, and I wouldn't vote for him honestly, especially with the off the field stuff.
Yeah. All right. Next up is the guy that I put out of order here, and this is his first year on the ballot, Dustin Pedroia. Interesting player. 2008 Topps rookie card there. 4-time All-Star. He was the 2007 American League Rookie of the Year. Next year came back again, 2008 American League Most Valuable Player. 1,805 hits, 140 homers, a 51.9 WAR. Sabermetrics are very good. He's comparable to a guy that we're going to be seeing later on, Chase Utley, but I'm leaning slightly towards no. He didn't get my vote this year. He's hovering right now. He's doing better than a lot of other guys. I mean, he's at 12.5%. He might stick around above the 5%, but he's a no for me. Greg, what's your thoughts?
I'm not a Dustin Pedroia guy. I don't think he should have won an MVP. I think that he was a hard-nosed guy. I think he played hard. He left he left everything on the field. Of all, I'm going to put one on a tee for Chris here, but of all the players I've ever watched, he reminds me more of how I played than anybody. A doubles guy, a middle infielder, played hard defensively, played hard physically, but is kind of overrated. And so Chris
Wow.
Chris has got his backswing ready to go here.
That's a softball pitch if I ever seen one.
But I mean, he was a good player. He was kind of a leader for the team and stuff. And my factoid of this episode is Dustin Pedroia grew up about 20 miles from where I live, and his high school baseball coach was my daughter Molly's high school golf coach.
Nice.
So there's that. That's all I got.
Chris,
Well,
what are your thoughts on it?
I've seen both of their swings, and Molly's swings better than his.
Oh, now we're talking. Now we're talking.
Pedroia.
And the gloves are off.
I'm not going to say, yeah, I bet he played a lot like you. The tee got in his way when he ran to first base. Had to have a parent out there dragging him by the shirt collar to get him to touch first base. Yeah, I can see that probably. But to me, I don't. You're right. That's cool that he's rookie of the year, most valuable player. That's some really cool stuff. That when you hear me talk about Johnny Bench, saying the same thing about Johnny Bench, that sounds cool. When I say it about Dustin Pedroia, I kind of wiggle up my nose and say, really? Kind of stuff. But I've never really thought of him as a Hall of Famer. There's a lot better players at his position that's in line to get there. I did think about him earlier, though. If this was one of those ballots that didn't have anybody, a clear-cut anybody, I'd say he's one of the guys I'd kind of cheer for, just because you're right. He is kind of a hardworking kind of guy. Not a long enough career. Not a Hall of Famer, but man, I'd like to have him on my team.
Cool. Dan.
Well, he played for the Red Sox, so I'm a hard no.
Enough said.
No. Seriously. No. The resume is not big enough. The playing is not big enough. I mean, he's got a 50 WAR, which is pretty good, actually. I'm surprised that his number is not a little higher. I thought he was like a 20 to 30% kind of guy, but he's not a Hall of Famer at this point, and he will never be a Hall of Famer. But right. Solid player, just not enough.
Gotcha. All right, next up. Now go easy on me, guys. All right, this is the 1998 Bowman Chrome J-Roll, 2007 National League MVP, 3-time All-Star, 2,455 hits, 231 home runs, a 47.6 WAR, 470 stolen bases. Also the all-time hits leader for the Phillies, past Mike Schmidt. For him, shocker, he's a yes for me. This is his 4th year on the ballot. He was at 12.9 last year. Right now he is higher at 19.1. I actually think he has a shot, not to get in this year, but I actually think he has a shot while he's on this 10-year ballot. A slight shot, maybe towards the very end, 9th or 10th year. But J-Roll, I compare his numbers to Barry Larkin, and he's got more hits, more home runs. They both won an MVP. I think the Larkin has a higher average, but J-Roll has better stats than Larkin. And nothing against Larkin. Larkin deserves to be in. Larkin was a fantastic player. But for me, Jimmy Rollins was a definitely hard yes. So be easy on me. Go ahead, Greg.
Well, let me first say I really like Jimmy Rollins. And for many years, I played fantasy baseball, many years. And Jimmy Rollins was a guy I liked to take early because he was a shortstop who got stolen bases. He got average. He got home runs. He got doubles. He did a lot. He had a lot of production. I really like the guy. I don't have any problem with Jimmy Rollins being in the Hall of Fame. At this point right now, I wouldn't vote for him. But I could see when he's getting toward the end, I could see doing it. 24-55 hits doesn't sound incredible, but when you piece it with the stolen bases, with some RBIs, with some home runs, when it's a position where at that time there wasn't a ton of production from middle infielders at this time. And so I wouldn't vote for him today, but I don't have a problem with him being in the Hall of Fame.
Cool. Missouri, your thoughts?
So I'm going to walk a little tightrope here because I have some friends that are Phillies fans that are YouTubers and content creators that I like, but I don't mind offending you. So I mean, really, there's some cool Phillies YouTubers out there, I'm going to wait and save this because I'm going to bet that you're going to have two other Phillies that we're going to talk about. Jimmy Rollins. Okay, so Jimmy Rollins is one of the best players on this ballot. He is one of the best all-around players on this ballot. And if we were lining up at recess and I was picking a team of people on this ballot, he would be the second person I would choose to be on my team. That being said, by watching him, I always thought he was a borderline Hall of Famer. But he's one of those guys you got to take a second look at when you look at him. And you guys are looking at Baseball Reference. I'm not smart enough to bring it up on my computer at the same time, and I'm not. But if you look, I always like scrolling down to see who he's the most comparable to. And he's the most comparable to Barry Larkin,
Yep,
Alan Trammell, Ryne Sandberg, and Robbie Alomar.
Yep.
Those are some pretty good middle infielders. And Jimmy Rollins was pretty athletic, good. Now, don't take this bad. I don't mean this in a bad way, but he's one of my, I think, the worst Golden Glove shortstops that has multiple Golden Gloves. Because I watched him play early in his career, and he was more like a Shawin Dunston than he was more like a late middle career Jimmy Rollins. Threw the ball away a lot, had an incredible arm, had incredible range, but just didn't have it under control. But I do consider him a good shortstop. Okay, so I didn't mean that in a bad way. But again, I'm leaning on pushing him through the doors of Cooperstown, even on this vote.
All right. Dan.
Well, he did have one season in his peak where his defensive WAR was 2.7, which is a crazy high number. So the thing about Rollins, and I don't like him, like as a Mets fan, as a New York guy, but the reality is after he retires, the guy's a really likable guy, and he's on TV and he's a smart guy, likable guy. I think he's going to help his case as the years go by being in the media, in the spotlight. And the guy was a winner, which is not something you can measure on Baseball Reference. The guy was a hard-nosed player. He was a great clubhouse guy. He was a sort of a prototypical team captain kind of guy. And, with those stats, the 470 stolen bases to me in an era when stolen bases were de-emphasized is a pretty good number. The WAR, not so great. He's got the hits, but his on base is kind of low. It was not, it's not an on base guy, but top of the order, middle of the lineup, wherever they put him, he was productive and he was a winner for a team that won a lot of games for a good chunk of seasons. So I'm actually a yes on him now, and I think he will eventually come close as we get to like 8, 9, 10 years. I think he's not get up there.
That's where I'm thinking of too. Yep. Okay, good stuff. Next up is another former Philly. This is his 95 Bowman best, Bobby Abreu, two-time All-Star, a Gold Glove Award winner, 2,470 career hits, 288 home runs, a 60.2 WAR, 1,363 RBI. He's a yes for me. This is Abreu's his sixth year. Last year he was at 14%. He's up this year to 25. What kind of sold me on Bobby was there's a stat out there that's on Baseball Reference for the top 20 right fielders of all time, as far as I think Jaws or WAR goes, and 17 of the 20 right fielders are in the Hall of Fame. The 3 that aren't are Dwight Evans, who I think eventually will get in, Ichiro Suzuki, who's on the ballot this year, and Bobby Abreu. The other 17 right fielders are all in the Hall of Fame. And he's right smack in the middle of that top 20. So when I saw that in the comparison, I was like, wow, you know what? And he was a 4-tool, 5-tool player. He had a great arm, could run the bases really well, had power, had speed, could hit for an average too. So he was a yes for me. I'm not sure what his career batting average was. I think it was like a little under 300. 291 career batting average, 1453 runs scored. So he's a yes for me. Greg?
He's not a guy that just I think of and I go, oh, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. But when you kind of grind through the stats, and there's another guy we're going to look at in a little bit that's the same kind of way, that when you kind of look it over, you're like, he was pretty good, and you look and it was like 9 out of 10 years. It looks like he had 100 RBIs, that's pretty good. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of him when he was a Yankee, but I don't hate it, but I'm not at the point now where I love it. As an outfielder, I just want a little bit more. Again, he's kind of like Rollins to me, where I don't really have a problem if he got in, but at this point, I would have to be convinced a little bit. So maybe Chris and Dan can convince me.
Chris.
Okay, I'm going to let this one go now. I'm afraid I'm going to just open up here. So Ray, forgive me. No, so this ballot perplexes me a little bit, right? I mean, we got 3 Philadelphia Phillies on the ballot, and all 3 of them, even the fair-minded ones, are going to say, man, they're all pretty good. They're good. They could be there. If not this year, maybe next year or the next year. This era, is the Phillies the most overrated Hall of Fame material guys that we're voting for here? The reason I say that, Phillies have been around for 1,000 trillion years, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've won 2 World Series, but yet they have 35 to 40 people in the Hall of Fame. You put these guys in there, they're going to put 3 more in there. You're going to get close to 50 people. The Royals have won 2 World Series, and they have 1 person in the Hall of Fame. I'm not saying the Royals should have more people in the Hall of Fame, and I know things are different because we had 1 pennant winner for years. But since the Royals have been in baseball, they've won 2 World Series. Philadelphia's won 2 World Series. Royals have 1 person in. These 3 guys gets in. The Phillies are going to have 6 or 7 people in the Hall of Fame. Or do we look at them through different eyes because the East Coast is one of the things?
I got to interrupt you real quick. I have to.
Okay.
I just want somebody's going to watch this back, and I want them to know that an eagle eye caught something. As soon as Chris started bashing the Phillies, Ray, your dog woke up off the couch, jumped down from the couch,
and left,
and ran over towards you, or left or something. Yeah. I just want to point out.
Wait a second. I hear a knock on my dog. I think it's Ray's dog.
That dog is not taking what Chris is saying about
not in the slightest. He's looking at me. He's looked at me, says, "What do you want me to do, Dad?" I'm like, "Hold on."
Yeah. He's knocking on my door right now. But no. So again, I know baseball is different and that kind of. I know it's different. Abreu's really good. was really good. Rollins really good. The guy that's coming up's really good. But to me, Abreu's like Bernie Williams to me. Really, really super good. Makes you take a second look to think that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he's there. I love what you said about the top 20 right fielders because to me, if he stays there, throughout the next 10 years, he's going to force his way into the Hall of Fame because he's going to be able to say, listen, or his stats are going to shout, listen, I'm better than this right fielder that you're trying to put me in. But what I also think about these three Phillies being on the ballot, I'm afraid they're going to be taking away some of their votes, each other's votes by having two. That's my thoughts. And as far as the people that's on the ballot, that's the Phillies. He's my third favorite. He's my third most. So I'm going to vote no this time. And, and then keep complaining that the Royals only have one person in the Hall of Fame.
Dan, what's up?
Well, the consistency is really strong. The numbers are really good, except for the fielding. He's got a -10 WAR fielding in his career. Great arm, but really bad right fielder. And I saw him play for a few years with the Yankees. One of the dumbest guys I've ever seen on a baseball diamond. So there's that. I'm really,
This is hard. Continue.
I wish you would have said that about Dustin Pedroia after Greg said he played just like him.
Hold on, dog. Hold on.
The dog just jumped out the window. Go ahead.
Well, he was. I didn't see him. I mean, I saw him play on the Phillies, but I saw him play every day with the Yankees. So my dumb comment is based on my experience watching him play for the Yankees. Just not a smart baseball player, and tons of talent, tons of physical ability, but and the numbers are good. But I'm not. I'm a no. I'm a pretty firm no.
Fair enough. All right, next up. This is a guy that's my fourth choice now, right? Because I voted for Burley, Rollins, Abreu. 2004 Topps traded Felix Hernandez, 6-time All-Star, 2-time ERA title, 169 wins at a time when wins are very, very low, 2,524 strikeouts, and the 2010 American League Cy Young Award winner. He got a yes from me. And Greg, you're up.
I mean, he was really good. But he played for Seattle, who a good chunk of that, it wasn't necessarily when Seattle was fantastic. So there were a lot of times I remember him giving up a run or two and even getting a loss. So he didn't get the wins that he probably deserved. I mean, some of these ERAs, a 2.14, a 2.27, a 2.49, I mean, a 3.04, 3.06. There was a stretch of 5 or 6 years where he was about as good as there was. I think he'll eventually get in. I think it's a little early. There was a time where there's this thing now where it's like, oh yeah, that guy's a Hall of Famer, so he just gets in on the first ballot. Like David Ortiz. Don't get me started on David Ortiz, but David Ortiz basically is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yogi Berra isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. Cy Young, Chris Speaker aren't
Joe
first ballot
DiMaggio.
Hall of Famers. Yeah, I mean, there are some really good guys that aren't first ballot Hall of Famers, but David Ortiz is. So I think there's something, a lot of people just go, oh, he is a Hall of Famer or he isn't. And it's like, well, I think that Felix Hernandez probably is a Hall of Famer. He's just the end of the 10-year guy. He's not an early in the 10-year guy.
Right.
So as things stand right now, I vote no. But if this was his 10th year, I'm voting yes. Is that weird? Maybe, because I think he deserves to be in. But to me, when you get in the 10 years, it says something. and he's not this early of a guy for me.
Gotcha. Mr. Missouri.
So I really liked him as a pitcher. Just how dominant he was there for a short period of time, and it wasn't necessarily short. You could line him up with some other great pitchers that's probably not going to make the Hall of Fame. I liken him to somebody like Brett Saberhagen, a two-time Cy Young Award, struck out a lot of people, just like.
Yep.
But I think Felix Hernandez during the best Felix Hernandez days is better than Brett Saberhagen. But career-wise, I think he's going to be lumped in with a bunch of different other players. I see him not making it for the longest time unless he gets the right people on an errors committee down the road sometime. And, that remember playing against him, how dominant he was. Because, let's face it, even when wins doesn't matter today so much that they're trying to convince us, 169 wins isn't a lot of wins, and he was a decade, he was before this a little bit, so he's a no for me, but another one that the best Felix Hernandez is as good a pitcher as I can come up with in my mind.
Okay. Dan.
Yeah, I mean, he was like the Saber, like golden boy for quite a number of years. And I remember when he won the Cy Young with 13 wins as a starter, which kind of like I was grinding my teeth as an old school guy.
Me too.
He was the guy that started. This was the pitcher that started when you saw like Jacob deGrom win it with 10, 12 wins. Felix was the guy that started where you saw the change of it wasn't about wins anymore.
Right.
Which I don't agree with, but.
I kind of lost track of him because, he kind of faded a little bit. After the age of 30, he's a below average pitcher. But for that stretch, it's about 6 to 7 years. He's, top of the league. But is that enough to get him in? I don't know. I actually, when I went back to check the numbers, expected better. Really, I mean, I thought he had a much better career than he did, and I thought he was going to get, we're talking about a 49 WAR, which is decent for a starter, but that's not Hall of Fame. And I don't think he makes it. I don't think he ever makes it because I think that there's a bit of a pushback to this, golden boy for Saber.
Yeah,
guy.
he's had that short career, like kind of like Johan Santana, where he's got like a, he's finished, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the top 10 in Cy Young. And that's those 6 years, 7 years were his golden years, averaging like 14, 15 wins a year. A lot of strikeouts for that time.
When he was at his peak, I took my sons for their birthday to Yankee Stadium. This was when they were like 13 or something. And he pitched against the Yankees, and he pitched, a brilliant game as he would back then, and won. So I do have that great memory. So thank you, Felix Hernandez, for that great memory. But otherwise, not Hall of Fame for me.
Okay. All right. Next up, 1993 Bowman rookie Andy Pettitte. 3-time All-Star, 256 career wins, 2,448 strikeouts, a 60.2 WAR, 3.88 ERA. The numbers are there. For me, the numbers are there, but this is one of the players that a guy that I did with the numbers should be in, but there was the steroid allegation, and I try and stay away from that because I'm up and down so much with the steroid situation. It's not even funny. 1 minute I feel they should be in. Next minute I'm like, not really. So to just make it easy on myself, I just kind of try and vote for other guys that are, that are clean. At least they're clean, and give them a shot first and maybe look at these guys later on. It's a shame because do I think he's a Hall of Famer? Yeah, I think he is. Does he get my vote this year? Probably not. So, Greg, you're up.
This one's really hard for me. I almost have to take a pass. I liked Pettitte a lot, and Pettitte was clutch.
Yep.
In the playoffs and in the World Series when he was pitching. You rest easy that night before because Pettitte's going to be on the mound. As a big Clemens guy, him and Pettitte were really, really tight. And then Pettitte's, how do I say this? I just think that if I was on the jury pool, I would say, Judge, could I be excused, please?
Yeah.
So I liked Pettitte a lot, and I think Pettitte was a clutch pitcher, and I think that you could absolutely make the case that he's very deserving because he was very good for a very long time. If I'm casting my ballots, I'm not giving him my vote.
Yep. Chris.
Well, I'm not giving him my vote either. And it's not necessarily just the steroid stuff. I mean, I don't know how much he used steroids. The fact that he did, that makes me cringe to say I'd vote for him. But I believe that the Yankees, for as great as their franchise has been, they suffer a little bit in the greatest pitchers of all time category, just a little bit. They don't have. I don't think they have a 5 pitcher or top 10 pitcher. But if you look around their positions, they have a top 10 player probably of all time at every position. Maybe not third base, but so I never looked at him as a Hall of Fame pitcher. He was clutch. He was a great pitcher. But as far as Hall of Fame goes, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah, this one's tough. I saw this guy pitch maybe more than any other pitcher in my entire life. And Greg is right. I mean, he was clutch. I looked at his postseason career, 19-11 in his postseason career. So he's pitched a Cy Young level season in the postseason. I did notice one thing. So he went to Houston for a few years, and one of his years in Houston, he had a 2.39 ERA. And I'm wondering how much those high ERAs that he had with the Yankees are park related. And so, winner, yes. Champion, yes. Hall of Famer, probably not.
Chris, the similar pitchers for him is Mike Mussina and Jack Morris.
Okay.
So just a thought.
Yeah. ERA is much lower, though.
Yeah.
I think Morris is actually a pretty good comparison.
Morris has the highest ERA in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Morris, though, to me, is in the Hall of Fame because of the postseason in my book. That kind of pushes him over the top, but it does make him similar to Andy Pettitte, who was a great postseason pitcher too.
Right.
I just, but if you asked me, 5 years ago about Morris and Mussina, I'd have said, it's kind of like what I am here about Pettitte.
Yeah.
And and so to help my thinking and get me closer to God, as far as I know, Morris and Mussina has never taken steroids.
Right.
So if I was going to put 2 of them in and 1 of them out, the 2 that are in there are in, and the 1 that's out is out.
That's my thought too. Yep.
That ship is sailed, Chris.
Yeah.
What's that? Excuse me. What'd you say?
The ship has sailed. Yeah. All right. These next 2 guys, these are the 2 reasons why these next 2 players, why I have Mark Burley in and why I have Felix Hernandez in. Because if I'm going to pick 10 players, I had to pick the next best that I saw on the bottom of this list. But these next 2 guys are absolutely Hall of Fame players. Do they get my vote? I can't do it. I don't know why, but Manny Ramirez, I mean, the numbers are insane. 12-time All-Star, 9-time Silver Slugger, 2,574 hits, 555 career home runs, a 69.3 WAR, 1,800 1,831 RBI. One of the best right-handed hitters I've ever seen in my life. Fantastic hitter. Not only did this guy fail a test once, he's failed it quite a few times. I'm kind of okay if the guy, if he's human, makes a mistake and fails it once, or, you know, but this guy's failed multiple times, and it's a shame. This is really heartening. It's really, really hard with these guys. I'm so glad Bonds is off the Bbwaa ballot, because it's just so, these guys are great players. There's no doubt. Do you vote for them because of this? I don't know. It's just tough. Greg, I wish I could do a hard pass on this. Greg.
I mean, he's one of the most productive players ever. And I hate him.
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely hate the guy. And you said Bobby Abreu was dumb, Dan.
Exactly.
Manny Ramirez.
Man Ram.
Oh, you take Abreu's IQ and divide it by 10, and you have Manny Ramirez's IQ. So
good hitter, though. Good hitter.
I'm a guy who, if I think you would be a Hall of Famer, even if you didn't do PEDs, then I believe you should be in the Hall of Fame. And if the PEDs are what caused you to become a Hall of Famer, then you shouldn't. Therefore, for me, Sammy Sosa is not. Jose Canseco is not. But Barry Bonds is. So that's just me. So Manny's one that's harder, because I don't know. It seems like he was doing steroids, and he just kept on doing them, even after they started testing.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the real Manny was. I mean, right now, nobody in the Hall of Fame. Well, we actually do have guys in the Hall of Fame who tested positive. So I don't know what to do. I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's how I am. I'm like, I can't figure it out.
I have a stronger opinion on the next guy, but on Manny, I guess I'm gonna say no.
Right.
I guess. Because I don't really know what he was without PEDs.
Right.
Because I just assume he was on them literally the whole time.
Right. That's exactly my thoughts. He's a great player. You're afraid to. It's like you're afraid to say yes because you don't want to get scrutinized. You know, because this.
I don't mind. I'm scrutinized every day. So
I know.
Not a problem.
But still, it's like it's still that like. Do you want to be wrong or do you want to be right? And it's just so hard. Chris.
Yeah.
His teammates liked him. Most of his teammates liked him, but he's probably one of the worst teammates of all time. Seriously. He was not very bright. I guarantee you he didn't, when he played in the outfield, he did not sit through any kind of meetings on how to play different fielders. He didn't know cutoffs, apparently, because nowhere have I ever read in baseball that you should be a cutoff in left field from a throw from the wall. It's easy for me to say no. He's juiced up, and he's the typical player that said, well, screw it. It's still worth it. Even if I get caught, I'm going to be making millions and millions of dollars, so who cares if I get caught? He basically told us from the first day that he stepped on a baseball field, I could give a rat's ass whether I'm in the Hall of Fame or not. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to put up big numbers, and I'm going to cash big paychecks. I don't care if I win. I'm just going to take care of Manny. And Manny, this is just Manny being Manny. So this is the easiest no I've ever heard of. It's easy for me. Whether he hit that ball or whatever, he stayed in the league too long. No, it's easy no for me. Easy.
Dan.
No way.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much the sentiment around the country with this guy, Great numbers. The numbers are unbelievable, but I mean, like I said, one time everyone makes a mistake, but this guy, like Chris said, it just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Just unbelievable. here's a guy, 94 SP rookie of Mr. Alex Rodriguez, 3-time MVP, 14-time All-Star, 3,115 hits, almost 700 home runs. I mean, 295 career batting average, 117.6 WAR. And this was a shock. I didn't know this. 2,086 RBI. I didn't know he was in the 2,000 RBI club. I wish when I saw that today, I was like, Jesus God. I put a no on him too, because if I'm going to say no to Manny, I mean, and this is just a tragedy for me to see guys like A-Rod and Barry Bonds and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just passed on him and said no, and it's a shame. You go up, Greg.
So my brother is a huge Yankee fan, and he hates A-Rod more than anybody, including Jose Canseco. He hates A-Rod, and I get it. I actually feel a little sorry for A-Rod, as twisted as that is. Actually, I share a birthday with A-Rod, by the way. I'm giving A-Rod a yes. And I know that everybody just, audible groan. How could you do that? The guy was insanely productive when he was skinny and young. He was insanely productive after the testing was going on. He was insanely productive when he had insane amounts of scrutiny because he was signing these massive contracts and all eyes were on him.
Mm-hmm.
He changed the way we look at shortstops. I mean, I actually, I'm a yes on A-Rod.
All right. Chris,
go ahead. Go, just take that voodoo doll out. Rip it to shreds.
I just, again, to me, I look at it like this. He took himself out of the race to be in the Hall of Fame. He didn't want to be in the Hall of Fame. He didn't. He took himself out of the race. When you start playing, and to me, when you start playing in baseball, you know there's some things that are illegal. He knew stuff was illegal, even though his first thing he said, first time he defended himself, he said, I didn't know that was illegal. Well, yes, you did. You wouldn't have kept it a secret if you didn't. But when he juiced or took orals or whatever the hell he did, he just basically said, I'm taking myself out of the race. He not only got caught once. When he got caught the first time, the rules were a little bit different then. That wasn't the first time he got caught. He got caught and then had a chance to change it, but didn't take that chance and still tested positive. So he tested positive 3 times for a first positive test. Mm-hmm. And then what's he do? He gets suspended for a full year, right? A full season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yes, he has Hall of Fame talent. He had Hall of Fame talent for 10, 12 years, but he took himself out of the race. When he first was in, if you look at Bill James rating the top shortstops of all times, when he first came into the league, there was a tie, but he had a tie, Bill James did, with Jeter, A-Rod, or Nomar. And they hadn't even played but a couple of years. And he said, I don't know where to put these guys. I don't know who's going to be better. But these three are going to be in the top 15 somewhere, right? But he basically said, I'm taking myself out of the race. Mm-hmm. And so why would I vote for somebody that took themselves out of the race?
Right.
And I'm not going to do it. And
right.
I can't feel sorry for him. He disgraced baseball. Mm-hmm. He just disgraced it. And
all right.
I could talk about that forever, and I don't want to, but.
Yeah. All right, Dan.
So A-Rod, as a 20-year-old, was a phenomenal player on one of the greatest teams of all time, the 2000 Seattle Mariners. And they won like 100,000,000 games. And then they lost to the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. And A-Rod came up in a game where the game was out of reach and they were about to be eliminated, and he hit a home run. And, a 20-year-old guy runs around the bases fast with his head down, because, you know, he wasn't going to celebrate. He wasn't going to high five anybody. And I was thinking when he did that, I said, wow, this is a kid with a head on his shoulders. This is a kid who knows the game, who knows how to carry himself and knows the situation and is smart enough to be able to say, okay, like, I'm not going to celebrate this meaningless home run. And then, of course, he ends up playing, 2 or 3 more years in Seattle, where he's amazing enough to get that ridiculous contract, but then went to Texas. And, you know, I could say I could forgive the guy as like a 23, 24-year-old coming into a steroid clubhouse where, you know, half the guys in the team were using steroids and falling into that trap. But Chris is right. When he's on the Yankees and it's like 2006 or whatever it is.
Yeah. 10.
Again. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's, so it is sad because I think
it is.
If he had stayed on that original track and if he had stayed in Seattle, he probably we wouldn't even be talking about it right now. We'd
right.
be, you know, he'd be like Ichiro.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I'm a hard no because of the steroids. So
gotcha.
the numbers are gaudy, but they're gaudy because he took steroids. So, you know, it's like,
yeah,
it makes baseball look bad. But anyway, moving on.
All right. Well, the next guy is a yes for me, and this is his rookie card, 2001 Bowman draft picks. Chase Utley, rookie, 6-time All-Star, 1,885 hits, 259 home runs, 64.5 WAR, 275 average. Chase Utley, you know, he's doing really well on the ballot. I mean, I think this is Utley's second year. Last year, he for a first year got 28.8%, which is a good showing for a first year. He's up to 54 right now. He'll probably drop down to the high 40s because wherever it is right now, usually when the election day comes out, it usually drops a few percentage points. But still, he's trending in the right direction. Now, my thoughts on this: do I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Yes. I'm picking him as one of my 10. But there's 2 other second basemen out there that I feel should deserve it a little bit more right now, and they should get in first, and that's Jeff Kent and Lou Whitaker. I would have a hard time putting Chase in, no offense to my Philly fans, but I would have a hard time putting in Chase before Jeff Kent, who's the all-time home run leader for second baseman, and Lou Whitaker. So, but as far as if I had the ballot this year and I was a voter, I would still vote for him based on, I can't make that decision and say, well, I'm not voting for him because Kent and Whitaker are in. If this was what the ballots that's presented to me right now, yeah, I would vote for him. He's a sabermetric darling. This is where you compare him to all the other second basemen in the history of the game. He's way up there. So yes, for me. Greg.
I like Chase Utley a lot in all those fantasy baseball teams I used to play in. He was one of the first picks because he was an offensive stud for 5-6 years in a position where there were none. I like him. I know there was some stuff at the end of his career, wasn't it? He did a hard slide into second or something, and some people gave him a lot of grief for that. I don't.
Yeah.
You know, that's baseball. 50 years ago, nobody would have said anything. I thought that got blown out of proportion. I think he gets in. I think he probably deserves to get in. He, for me, is one of the ones that I'm really struggling with, whether I say yes this year or I say yes in a year or two. The only reason he's not an obvious is because he was so good for about 5 or 6 years. And then the rest of his career was pretty good, but he was really good for this stretch. I'm a maybe, but if right now I had to cast my ballot, I probably say no, but I might change my mind based on what these 2 clowns say.
Chris, bring it on.
Okay, so Chase Utley to me is a poor man's Don Mattingly at a different position. He was pretty good early, really good. He was really good early. His last few years, his WAR was below where it should have been to stay in the major leagues. But 6-time All-Star, four-time Silver Slugger at his position. I think he was the best second baseman in baseball a big portion of the time that he was in there. I'm kind of been down on the Phillies, and like I say, to me, he's a poor man's Don Mattingly. And I called you the other day, and you were at your local card shop having a party with your buddies. And based on how smart your buddies sounded when I was talking to them, I think I'm going to vote yes for Chase Utley to be in the Hall of Fame. If you look who he's the closest to, it's Joe Gordon
and Bobby Dewar.
And he is also close to Vern Stevens. And if you guys would look up Vern Stevens, you're going to call Vern Stevens a poor man's Chase Utley. And I've always thought Vern Stevens was a Hall of Famer. So I'm here to tell you, I think Chase Utley is a Hall of Famer.
Vern Stevens' power is much better, though.
It's true.
Yeah. I think Utley is going to get in for a lot of those reasons. I just, the guy broke somebody's leg at second base in the playoffs. And I was rooting for the team of the guy whose leg was broken, and I can't even remember his name now, the shortstop. And they literally set up a new rule for second base for guys to avoid having their legs broken because of Chase Utley. So not a big fan of him as a human being. The numbers are pretty undeniable. I'll tell you, there's a 5-year stretch where he's as good as any second baseman in the history of baseball. Mm-hmm. If you look at the WAR, I mean, he's averaging an 8 WAR for a 5-year stretch, and that's pretty remarkable.
Ruben Tejada was the second
Ruben
baseman.
Tejada, that's right, yeah. And then he kind of falls off the cliff there at near like age mid-30s. But I did read Jay Jaffe's piece on Utley, and Jay knows more than anyone else on earth about Hall of Fame qualifications, and he says yes. So I'm going to vote no this year because of the Ruben Tejada incident, but I'm going to guess that in the future I'd probably vote yes.
Yeah, it's a good point on Jay Jaffe. And the Jaws, he's ranked 12th all time at second base. So he, like I said, he's a sabermetric darling.
Yeah.
All right. Next up for me, this is a yes for me. This guy was one of the best fielding center fielders of all time. 95 Bowman, best rookie, Andrew Jones, a 5-time All-Star, just a bit under 2,000 hits with 1933. Big power numbers, 434 homers, a 62.7 WAR, 1,289 RBIs, and a 10-time Gold Glove Award winner. And this is Jones' 8th year. He's coming towards the end, and he is hovering right now at 74.3%. So that means he probably won't get in this year. He'll probably finish still above 70, which means next year he'll probably get in. But for me, for my vote, he's a yes for me. Greg?
I'm voting yes on Andrew Jones. Like you said, one of the best defensive guys ever. A lot of really good power numbers for a cornerstone player for a really good team for a long, long time. And I mean, again, I really value defense. So this one's, I would have started saying yes to him about 3 years ago. And I'm a yes now.
Chris?
I'm going to keep this quick. I think he's a yes. To me, I think he's better than Dale Murphy. But not, I like Dale Murphy more, but he's a yes to me.
Yeah, I'm going to be quick. I'm just going to say this. With his fielding stats are overrated. And somebody did a study on this, a really, really good deep dive. It wasn't Jay Jaffe, but it was one of those kind of guys. His left fielder and right fielders were so bad when he was playing, and their numbers were so ridiculously bad in terms of range factor, that Andrew Jones got to cover so much ground because of that. And he made a lot of plays and caught a lot of balls that he wouldn't necessarily have caught if his left fielder or his right fielder were any good at all. I mean, he literally had Ryan Klesko next to him for like 4 years. And so his numbers, his fielding numbers are inflated. That being said, even taking that away, his fielding numbers are strong. And then you look at the other numbers, 400 home runs and, what's the WAR, 62? I mean, I'd have to say, and another thing, winner. I mean, how many division titles did he win? He's in the playoffs literally every year of his career practically. So I'm a yes on him. But I'm not as hard of a yes as you guys.
Okay. Well, now we're coming to, in my opinion, these are the four guys right now, and that are above the 75, and at fourth place right now at 79.6%. This is the 95 top straight. Carlos Beltran. And for those people out there, that picture of him is not Beltran. It's an error card. It's Juan Lagosa or something like that. And if you go to Juan Lagosa's card, it's a picture of Carlos Beltran. So which do you pick for his rookie card? You go with this one because it has his name on there, even though it doesn't have his picture. Weird. But he was the 1999 Rookie of the Year, 9-time All-Star, 2,725 hits, 435 home runs, which is up there for a switch hitter, 70.1 WAR, 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, a ton of RBIs, 1,587 RBIs. He's a yes for me. I know he has that last year scandal thing with the trash can things or whatever in Houston, but I'm not going to hold that against him for 1 year of his career when the other 15 years were phenomenal. So he's a yes for me.
Yeah, for me, he's a yes. He is a 5-tool guy. I mean, good defensively, lots of stolen bases. I mean, lots of stolen bases early. And then he picked up a little bit of weight, added a little bit of power, lost a little bit of speed. But he was kind of he was very productive for a lot of good teams for a long time. Production, power, average, both sides, one of the better switch hitters of his era. I think that he's a very important player, and I'm saying yes now. 2 years ago, I probably would have said no. The trash can thing bothers me a little bit because I don't know. I mean, like what form of cheating is okay and not? So if we're gonna play, the moral police here, why are we not playing it here? But for me, again, it goes back to not what did you do? It's what were you without that? And without that, he's still a Hall of Famer. So
Right.
To me, I'm not going to try to be an angel. So he's a yes.
All right. Christopher.
Oh, I really like Carlos Beltran early. He was part of a great Royals outfield when they were young, a young outfield with Johnny Damon, Jermaine Dye, and Carlos Beltran, and that was a great outfield, or could have been. One of the greatest switch hitters of all time, I think, at the end of the day, when you look back at it. I struggle with the whole scandal for years. For years, baseball teams have been trying to pick up signs and steal signs from other clubs, just not that extent, that much to that extent. I think if I had to vote right now, I think I'd vote no. He's one of the best players on this list, though, but I don't know if he's one of the best players on this list like Manny Ramirez. But I'm going to vote no right now.
All right. Dan, what's your thoughts?
I think Chris is just upset because he left the Royals, but I am a very, very hard yes. I think Carlos Beltran should get 100% of the vote. This guy was ridiculously good. I saw him in his prime with the Mets, and there's a play that they show over and over again when it comes to Carlos Beltran, which is him taking the third strike on a curveball from Adam Wainwright to end Game 7 of the 2006 National League Championship Series. So everybody thinks Carlos Beltran was a failure in 2006. Carlos Beltran was the MVP in 2006, or he should have been. His numbers are ridiculous. And the other thing is he was a terrific fielder. You want to talk about Andrew Jones? This guy was just as good as Andrew Jones around that time frame. And he has all the numbers. His resume is 100%. And what Greg said is right. Okay. The sign stealing thing, lots of teams stole signs over the years, But did it affect his performance? No. It was the last year of his career when he was 40 years old. He hardly even played. He had a Hall of Fame resume before that season even began. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, 100% Carlos Beltran, Hall of Famer. Period. And I think he's getting in this year too. I think it's not. I think he's gonna. He's at like.
He's 79.6. He could just get in.
The late ballots tend to be the secret ballots. The people that didn't make their votes public. They tend to be the older, more conservative guys, and the dumber guys also, like the the guys from TV. And so that number is going to go down. The question is it going to go down enough so that he doesn't make 75%?
Right.
If he doesn't make it this year, he'll get in.
Oh, he'll be in next year. Next year's ballot's pretty bad.
So I'm feeling pretty good about him this year, though.
Before we go on to the next guy, if he does get in, does he go in as a Royal? And if he does, there's a Royal for you, Chris.
There you go.
He goes in as a Met.
He goes in as a Met.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll go in as a Met.
Well, next up, this is the last year for this guy to be on the ballot. This is his rookie card, 94 Bowman, Billy Wagner, 7-time All-Star, did win the Rollins Relief Award one year. He's 8th all-time in saves, 2nd amongst left-handers with 422. He's a hard yes for me. He should have got in my opinion, about 2-3 years ago. So he's a yes for me. Greg?
For me, I kept saying, come on, Billy Wagner? Like, what are we talking about? Like, Billy Wagner in the Hall of Fame? And then preparing for this, I was trying to compile evidence as to why he shouldn't be in. And I'm like, actually, maybe he should. I mean, he's probably the best left-handed relief pitcher ever.
Yeah.
For me, the number one stat for a relief pitcher is their whip. And his whip is under 1. His career whip is better than Mariano Rivera's. And he's left-handed. And I was no forever. And now I'm a yes on Billy Wagner.
Chris, your thoughts on Mr. Wagner? Last year on the ballot.
Golly, I might as well have Greg answer for me because same thing. I was not a Billy Wagner fan. Again, there'll be no more older relievers that used to pitch 3 innings or more elected to the Hall of Fame anymore. That era is over. Even though somebody like Quisenberry, who doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame, I'm talking about a Royal again, has 5 out of 6 years was top 5 Cy Young Award winner, where Mariano Rivera never even did that, top 5 in a stretch like that. But he'll never get in because of 3 innings saves, that kind of stuff. Billy Wagner was the reason I didn't like closers, but to me, he's the best left-handed closer. I can't argue against him. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. Put him in.
Okay. Dan.
One stat you didn't put up there is his WAR, 27.8.
Yes, 27.8.
That might be the lowest WAR of anybody in the Hall of Fame because he's going to get it. I think he's going to get in. People were doing the math on it, and I don't think he's necessarily clinched it at this point. But based on how his numbers changed with the secret ballots at the end, he seems to be safe. So I think he's going to get in. I don't feel strongly either way, to be honest with you. I think the saves are good. Is he the best left-handed reliever of all time? Maybe not. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to get in. So.
Okay. Well, the last 2 guys, kind of easy. Well, maybe not for this next guy for some of you, but for me it is. I have a yes for him. This is the 99 Bowman Chrome. CC Sabathia. He was the 2007 American League Cy Young Award winner, a 6-time All-Star, 251 wins, which is really good, 3,093 strikeouts, 3rd all-time for lefties. So that means Randy Johnson, Steve Carlton, and Sabathia are 1, 2, and 3 for lefties. 3.74 ERA and a 62.3 WAR. This is an absolute yes from me. I thought he actually had a shot at 300 wins if he stuck around a couple more years, but no. But that's a yes for me.
CC is a yes for me. 250 wins, well over 3,000 strikeouts. The guy was an absolute horse. I mean, they just kept trotting him out there. He would have had way more wins, but he played on some bad teams early in his career that made it where he didn't get the wins. I saw CC pitch in high school. He's the same age as me, and we kept hearing about this guy who threw in the 90s from Vallejo High School. So I went out to the baseball field that year and watched him throw for an inning, and the guy just threw absolute smoke. And I'll tell you this, my dad worked in the same PE department as his high school coach for about 5 years. And CC does more things under the radar and when he was playing than just about anyone. A really fantastic human being.
Yeah.
Who donates and does lots of stuff and goes out of his way to not be recognized for it. And I have got one awesome story about him. And right now I'm blanking on his name. The Cleveland left-handed pitcher, who was the pitcher for Cleveland who was really, really good in the 2000s?
Not Shane Bieber.
The guy who pitched for the Phillies also? What's his name?
No. I'm
Cliff
blanking
Lee?
on his name.
Cliff
Lee.
Yeah.
Lee. Cliff Lee and CC are really good friends. And the night before they faced each other in, I believe, Game 7 or like an elimination game in the playoffs, Cliff Lee stayed at CC's house and they stayed up all night talking. CC is just an awesome guy, a horse of a pitcher. He's a yes for me in every way. Chris.
Again, he breaks some barriers down, being only the third left-hander to get 3,000 hits. They need to that needs to mean something. That must be hard, But if you're the third best at something, in a league of all kinds of players. But the thing I like, one of the stats that I love telling people about CC, I don't think it ever be broken, but he is the only player to lead both leagues the same year in complete games, or in shutouts. In shutouts. He led the American League and the National League the same year. He was on, I don't know, Cleveland, Milwaukee won, Milwaukee and Cleveland. Yeah. So I think that's fun. That's fun to talk about. But he's a surefire 100% Hall of Famer.
Cool, Dan.
I saw him pitch many, many times with the Yankees. Let me just say I'm a 100% yes on him. But there's a couple of interesting facts about him. One is when he went from Cleveland to Milwaukee midseason that year, Milwaukee was fighting for a playoff spot, and he started on 3 days rest for like the last 2 months of the season as a free agent, as a guy playing out his contract. So, he could have gotten hurt. He could have hurt his arm. But he gave it all, and he pitched phenomenally. He brought that team to the playoffs by pitching, on 3 days rest for 6 weeks, which is, to me, was very impressive. When he was on the Yankees, yes, every day, number one starter every year. The problem for CC, and, you say he should have had more wins, he should have had more this. He was an alcoholic. He still is an alcoholic. And he went through some really bad times as an alcoholic, to the point where the teammates put him in an intervention at one point. So this guy is compiling these stats while hungover. They say that about Babe Ruth. He hit 714 home runs. How many of them did he hit with a baseball that had been used in 4 consecutive games while he was hungover? Right. Eating only hot dogs,
And he actually used to eat 2 boxes of Captain Crunch a day. So that's true.
Wow. Sugar.
Sugar. So the sugar and the alcohol, but he's healthy now, and he is he's a Hall of Fame human being also. Right. But the one thing about CC that they always complained about near the end of his career, when there was discussion of is he a Hall of Famer, was his ERA. And his ERA is interesting because he was one of those guys that he would pitch as many innings as they wanted him to pitch, and he would pitch to the score. So when he gets those wins are earned. And the ERA may be higher because he was throwing fastballs when they were up 8-2. and maybe giving up 2 or 3 runs late in the game and getting taken
Right.
out in the 8th inning. So a lot of his runs are late runs that are because he was sacrificing for the team. So I'm 100% on this guy. I am 100% on him, like no question. And I'm
Okay.
really happy that he's going to make it in as first ballot guy, because near the
Deserving,
end of the year, there was talk that, oh, I don't know, the ERA is high, et cetera, et cetera. But no, he's in.
Cool. Well, last up, this is a definite yes, I think, across the board. 2001 Topps Ichiro. He's the 2001 Rookie of the Year and MVP. And the only other player I know of that did that was Fred Lynn. 10-time All-Star, 3,089 hits, 60 WAR, 311 career average, 10-time Gold Glove Award winner, so great defensively. Some people say that if you include his Japanese stats, he's the all-time hits leader, but, I'm not going there. But this is a definite yes for me. Right now, he's at 100%. It's just a matter right now is, will he get 100%? Greg?
No.
I hope he gets 100%. I don't know what else to say. He's fantastic.
Fantastic
One of the best.
player.
One of the in the discussion of top 5 hitters of all time.
Yep. Chris?
Great player. Great. He could have played any position and been good at it. I do believe that if he would have started his career in the United States, it would be close.
It'd be close,
He would have been battling for the all-time hits leader, and I'm not so sure he wouldn't have won. He did a great job taking care of himself. I think he did a lot for the game, and I look forward. I look forward to seeing what kind of respect he gets from the other Hall of Famers when he gives a speech.
Okay, Dan.
He might get 100%.
Yeah.
He also might, there might be a guy or two, the secret ballot, old school guys who don't think anybody's the first ballot. The kind of guys who left Tom Seaver off, those kind of guys. And one of the things about Ichiro is that they say that he didn't hit that many home runs, maybe 100 in his career, but he used to, in batting practice.
Yeah, I heard this story too.
And people are like, why don't you do that in the games? He's hitting home run after home run after home run. And people are like, you should do that in the games. But that's not the type of player he was when the game started.
Right.
And, one of his greatest stats is he broke George Sisler's record. I think it's
single season hits. Yeah. It was like
years
of
hits in a season. And so, yeah, I mean, is he a yes? Of course he's a yes. He's an absolute yes.
Okay.
But, one of the other things that somebody did a stat comparison between Ichiro and Kenny Lofton. And, Kenny Lofton is, I think he's off the ballot now. He didn't make it in. And
right.
His numbers are really, really similar to Ichiro's. And so I was thinking that Ichiro getting in at 100% may actually help Kenny Lofton when he gets on the Veterans
Committee. True.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, there you have it. That's all of the players. We got them in as quickly as possible. I appreciate all you guys. I mean, coming on. I hope I think this was a great exercise. I mean, as of right now, if we went back real quick before we head off to go look at that first slide there, I think 3 of those top 4 guys, my prediction, Suzuki, Sabathia, and Wagner will get in this year. I think Beltran is going to just slip below 75, but he'll get in next year because I looked at next year's ballot for first-year guys, and it's Ryan Braun and Cole Hamels and Edwin Encarnacion. It's really kind of weak, so I could see Beltran getting in next year. But any last-minute thoughts for you guys? Like, who do you think is going to get in?
I think you're right. I think it'll be those 3.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything, I just appreciate you including me with
no problem.
You 3 guys. I have a blast hanging out. So thanks for including me. But I agree. I think it's Ichiro, CC, and Wagner. I think Beltran and Andrew Jones get in next year.
Next year, same thing. Chris, your last thoughts?
I just hope I didn't offend any of my Phillies fans.
My dog's okay now.
Watch my channel. I did.
You all right?
I did put Chase Utley in, right? So,
yeah.
But no, I tell you what, I enjoy talking about the Hall of Fame to people that appreciate that topic as much as I do. And I know you guys do. And so it makes it fun.
Cool. And my dog forgives you, Chris. He says you're okay now.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah. All right. Hall of Fame dog there. My final thoughts are absolutely enjoyed. Ray, thank you so much for inviting me.
No problem.
Not only this one, but for the last one. These two bozos, love them. I can't wait to see them at Strongsville and give them a big hug and give them all the shit I can in the world. Sorry about that. I feel like Beltran is going to be so close. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat when that comes in. But I think he's actually going to get in. And like you said, right, he's going to get in next year.
Next year, yeah. The two questions for me is, will Ichiro get 100% and will Beltran get in? The two in the middle are a definite. So
yeah.
And I did vote for Jimmy Rollins. So
cool.
I'm the Phillies guy. So I'm good.
All right, guys. I appreciate you coming on. Again, everybody who's tuning in, let me know who you think is going to get in the Hall of Fame. 1 week from today, January 21st, Bbwaa ballot. The announcement will come out on MLB Network. Stay tuned for that. Till then, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I always say, have fun with it. See you real soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.